Finnish approach to happiness is not about the things you own, it's about the things you do. American might be that you are kind of blackmailing with sex. Don't you, the ladies, don't you want to have sex? You're making also yourself wait.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Borders podcast, where I sit down weekly with guests from all around the world to chat culture, dating, and human experiences. So join in and let's break down those barriers together. Hey everyone, and welcome to the second episode of my podcast. Today, I'm super excited to chat to Varpu from Finland. Varpu runs an Instagram page and a YouTube page called Her Finland, where she showcases Finnish culture and teaches Finnish language. She and I met in October when I was in Helsinki filming a singles guide to Finland, and we instantly bonded. We had such an incredible conversation about the intricacies of Finnish culture that I wanted to keep talking. So as soon as I decided to launch my podcast, she was the first person I instantly texted about this interview. So without further ado, welcome Varpu. I'm super excited to continue our conversation today and talk more about Finnish culture.
Thank you so much, Marina. I am so happy and excited to be here, and it's so lovely to see you.
I love it that you say my name like Marina. Mm-hmm. Is that the Finnish version of it?
That's the Finnish version, Marina.
Oh, nice. It's very similar to the one in Russian, which is Marina.
Yes.
Marina. Interesting. Okay. And how do you say your name in Finnish, actually? Because I feel like I'm getting it wrong.
You're saying it really nicely. It's Varpu.
Okay, you're just being nice because I said it completely differently.
No, it can be like Varpu or something like this. So don't worry, you were perfect.
I'm sure Americans get it wrong all the time. They'll call you like Varpu.
My American friends have a lovely nickname to me. I'm Varps or Varps.
Varps.
That's a really cute way. At least it sounds very cute to me.
That is very cute. Okay, so let's get right into it. So first of all, tell us something about yourself. Where were you born in Finland? Where did you grow up? Do you live in Finland at the moment?
Yes, I'd love to tell a bit about myself. I was born in Kuhmoinen, which is a tiny village of less than 3,000 people in central Finland. And I grew there next to farms, next to cows and chicken. And yeah, I'm a countryside girl by heart. Now I live in Lahti with my family. Lahti is 1 hour away from Helsinki, so I work all around Finland, but commute to Helsinki quite often due to all of my work relating to Her Finland.
It's so interesting to meet someone who's born on a farm, but do you find that you prefer the quiet life to like the city life?
That's a great question. I do feel that I am more myself when I'm in nature, but it is true that in Finland, in every city in Finland, it's still very nature-oriented lifestyle. The forests are the minimum is like 10 minutes away, even in Helsinki, that you're able to just go and be in a real forest, not some park. So I do think that it's okay in a city, but I do have to say that I do wish to return to the countryside in some years, maybe.
So that's interesting because, okay, so Finland keeps winning the title of the happiest nation in the world, and it's the 6th year, correct?
Yes.
So congratulations, Finland.
Thank you.
First of all. And I also saw your Instagram post about, I think you were at a cottage and you were kind of promoting this idea that, okay, this is, Finland is, we do enjoy these kind of simple, cozy things. So do you think that has something to do with, the idea of the Finns as being the happiest people? First of all, do you believe in this title?
I do believe in this title, but I do understand why there are mixed emotions when it comes to the title here in Finland. I think, well, first to explain a little bit, the idea of happiness in Finland there is a very famous and old saying that if you have happiness, you must hide it. So one should not boast about their happiness, because it could be so that life takes it away. So there is a bit of like superstitious side of things, even to say that, oh, okay, I'm so happy. You should just be silent and happy in peace, in privacy. But when it comes to this particular title, there are criteria, I think is the correct way, there behind it. And I think we have won the title because there are so many factors when it comes to the societal welfare and the tightness of the society. And of course, there's one element that is connected to the nature as well. But there are a lot of factors weighing into that title. Now, as we go to that topic of how nature is a part of the happiness, I think it's a bit broader to that. I think the Finnish approach to happiness is not about the things you own, but it's about the things you do. So it is a way of life in that way. And it's about those small things. Being happy in Finland it's not that people are smiling all around and being very talkative to their neighbors, but it's more about being content and being grateful for what you have in life right now.
Do you find yourself a happy person generally?
Yes, I do. And I am a very smiley one.
You are. Do you find yourself as happy when it's January or February?
No, I don't. So there is definitely a winter and a summer mode to Finnish people. And I think everybody who has visited Finland in the wintertime and then in summertime can see the difference. And I do think that even as we grow older, it's even bigger, that difference. As at least I am feeling it. As I'm getting older, I can feel that the hibernation time. I just want to be a bear and go to have my winter sleep and then come back in the springtime.
Do you think the idea that Finns are not really happy, it's more that they're content? Do you think there's some truth to that?
It really comes how you want to, what's the definition of happiness? I do really appreciate the Finnish definition of happiness because it's very far from being successful. We have two totally different words. For example, if we think about successfulness, it comes to the material things. And when we are observing just the happiness word in Finnish, onnellisuus, it really is more abstract and it really comes to your soul and to your heart and to those things that you really cannot measure with money.
What do you do to stay happy even when it's the winter? Or are you just kind of depressed in the winter and then you just watch a lot of movies? Actually, and that's interesting because every time I look at not just at the Finnish way of life, but at the Nordic way of life, like I just see there is this girl, she lives in Svalbard and she's very famous.
I know her. She's great.
And on basically all her posts are, I'm enjoying the winter so much, but all she does is watch movies and she makes the place cozy, and you're right, like she kind of hibernates through it, right? So is that what you do in the winter?
Well, we are super active here in Finland during the winter season. We do a lot of winter sports, and I think when the weather is good, everybody is outdoors enjoying the winter weather. But it is true that we try to make the most of it with like twinkly lights and candles and burning logs in the fireplace and enjoying all those games and movies. That being said, when it comes, for me, it's very particular, or it depends on a person how the winter and how the darkness affects to you. For me, kind of my hardest point every year is early spring, because that's the time of year when I feel that the snow has melted, everything is very dark, everything is very brown, and the sun just hits up so light. It's so bright. burns through your skull and you're still in the hibernating mode. So that's, for me, it's the most struggle when I think about the times of the year. It's not so much struggle for me, for example, in November or December, when it's actually way darker, because that's where we have a party season here in Finland. There's a lot of activities going on. And of course, there's Christmas coming up.
Interesting. I thought it would be like November. That would be the hardest season or the hardest month, but it's spring actually.
And this depends. I feel that some of my friends and my husband, they all dislike November. That's the hardest month for them. So it varies.
Okay. And what do you think is something that's uniquely Finnish in your opinion? So we talked about the idea of sisu, which I actually want to talk a little bit about again.
That is definitely something that is very unique in a way that I believe that every person on the planet has sisu, but we are very fortunate to have a power word to describe it, so we can really use it in everyday life. And what sisu means is that you just keep on going, even though something feels hard, you just keep on pushing. And it's not a place that you are constantly in, it's a place where you visit. So when you need that extra then you tap into your sisu.
Interesting. And are there any other Finnish terms that foreigners might be surprised to learn?
Well, sauna is, of course, a very Finnish word, and that's something that we are very proud of. And I'm really very into it personally. I love how it's been a very, like a health spa for Finnish people throughout centuries. It's not a luxurious thing in Finland at all. It's a necessity. And it really also gives you a physical place to calm down and to get disconnected from a busy lifestyle that, for example, many of us are living at the moment.
How often do you go to the sauna yourself?
I go once a week, but I know many people who go every day.
Every day?
Every day.
In the winter or in the summer as well?
Well, especially in the winter time. But I do have to say, now that we had electricity so high up, everybody was decreasing their sauna times to save electricity if they have electrical saunas.
Interesting. And do you have, so there is, there's this one thing when I was in Finland, which is different from us, because I have a sauna in my building.
Mm-hmm.
But what's different about Finnish sauna, besides many things, we cannot pour water on our rocks in the sauna. I had a friend and she was like, we should pour water on it. This is the way you do it. And I said, no, you can't actually. It's electrical. You're going to you're going to start a fire. So you can't. So it's quite a different sauna. But the other difference is that you don't have to book it. Whereas in Finland, there's a process of booking the sauna in advance, right?
Yes. If you live in an apartment building and you don't have your own sauna in your apartment, then you book your sauna slot. But there tends to be a general women's and men's turn weekly, and it's called lenkkisauna, which means that you go on a walk and then you go to this sauna, and that's free for all.
And is there a rule that you should be nude in the Finnish sauna?
Well, we actually kind of do, because you can see no swimming suit signs in public saunas. Saunas that are in swimming facilities, for example, they are always so that there's one for men and one for women. And then among your same sex, you are nude in the sauna.
And it's men and women separate, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like you wouldn't see each other naked in the same sauna, or are there mixed saunas as well?
There can be, but then it's displayed in a sign that people do know that it's mixed, and then you do go with your swimming suits on.
What do you think is something that would surprise a foreigner when they come to Finland? Obviously, the the nudity in the sauna as one of them. Is there
That's
anything else?
Yes, this is something I asked recently from my community, and there were so many wonderful um, things that have surprised my community. So I would love to share some. So, for example, how much Finns love to recycle. We recycle pretty much everything here. We're very particular on it. If you put wrong things in a wrong canister, we will give you a snappy note. And then another thing is that many Finns drink milk with their meals. This is very popular, for example, during lunch breaks. Then something that is often regarded as weird is that we seldomly say hi to strangers, and we avoid eye contact when we are walking on the street. So that is something that doesn't come naturally with Finns.
It's very interesting. When I was in Finland, like, and I think I shared this to you when I arrived, but obviously I arrived from Greece, so even more of like a culture shock. And I just remember getting to the Helsinki airport, and it was the quietest place I've seen. Like, that was the quietest airport I've ever been in. Finns, they just like they stood kind of far from each other. Everybody was minding their own business. Nobody was looking at each other. And then I just remember going to the supermarket, and it was the same kind of feeling. But
That's so true.
so interesting, like they almost seemed scared of talking to people, or maybe they were in their own headspace, or they were just not used to it. But whenever I spoke English to them, I being like a foreigner, I would just come up and say like, "Oh, what does this mean? What is that?" And they would get so excited. And like, it was just so funny to see like the expression on their faces when you would ask them a question. They'd be like, "Yeah, oh, okay, yeah, let me show you." And all of a sudden they would come to life. There was this guy at the cash register. I remember just speaking English to him, and he was like, "Oh." He was, and the funny thing is, before I did that, he looked like he was just dying. Like he looked like he had no energy left in him. But as soon as I spoke English, he just like came to life, and he was like, "Here's your 90 cents." And he seemed so proud of just saying, "Here's your 90 cents." He was like so excited about it. Like, it felt like he craved like a little bit of human interaction. But it's just that I think once you get into that mode of don't smile, don't look at people, you stay that way.
It's so true. And that is one thing that is very uniquely Finnish. And it is basically that bothering other people is not a good thing in the Finnish mindset. So we do know that it's not how all nations or all cultures work. So I think everybody must be very excited that they can break this rule when there's an international there next to you. But basically what it means is that we want to give everybody their space to be in their own thoughts. So there's a very high threshold to really bother someone you don't know.
That's a great point, that it's all about giving space to one another, right? Because in US or in Canada, whenever I take the elevator with someone, it's always like, "Hi, how are you? Oh, good. Oh, the weather's great outside. Yeah, it wasn't so great last week." And it's just kind of the small talk, small talk, small talk. But I can tell when someone's not from here. Like, there are a lot of Ukrainians right now in Canada. And so when I take an elevator with a Ukrainian person, right away, like, I know this is not the culture, to make small talk. So I just leave them alone. And
it's a polite thing in Finnish culture. It's a polite thing not to bother. But I do think this is more visible in the relationships between Finns themselves, but we do know how to switch from it when there are internationals there. Because, of course, everybody wants to it's a different vibe to be with someone who is talkative and bubbly. And then we also, especially in the summertime, we get really much energy out of it.
Do you feel like most of the Finns, or you can only speak about yourself, do you feel like you miss a little bit of that human interaction on a day-to-day basis? Do you want people to leave you alone, or would you rather they actually talk to you?
That's a really good question. And honestly, as I'm born and raised in Finland, I don't miss anything in that sense that I would love people to say hello to me. I love just being on my own thoughts.
So you're just like, leave me alone, please.
Yeah, with my resting bitch face.
I mean, I can agree with that. Having like a small talk, a lot of times it's just you get into the elevator here in Canada and just think like, please don't start talking to me. Like it's not that you want to have a conversation with someone, but sometimes by the end of it, if it was like a quality conversation,
Mhm.
then you kind of leave the elevator with a really good feeling about your day.
Yes, and that we don't experience in Finland. So we don't get that positive rush, I have to say. And that is something I have sometimes experienced abroad. And maybe that is something that we should appreciate and think about more in these encounters. But on the positive note, it is really a nice talent to be silent in communal spaces. And that, I think, gives that overall peaceful and quiet atmosphere in Finland.
Yeah, and as we talked about it, there's no need to fill up the space with chatter if you have nothing to say, right? It feels very meaningless as well.
Exactly. This is one of the kind of basic hidden rules in Finnish communications, that if you don't have anything that adds value to the conversation, you will just shut up.
Just be quiet.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about one of the hardest things to do in Finland, which is making friends. We touched upon it in the video, obviously, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about it because, for anyone that's listening to this, part of the reason they probably tuned in is because they're in Finland and they don't understand the culture and they don't know how to go about making friends.
Yes. So if you are at a Finnish workplace, I would definitely suggest to take full advantage of the coffee breaks and lunch breaks and just squeeze yourself in. You really have to be proactive in building friendships in Finland. I have relocated inside Finland back in the years, and when I for example, came to my current hometown of Lahti, I really had to push myself towards some of the kind of acquaintances that I found at work, and thought that, okay, maybe we could click as friends. And then I was like pushing myself, really throwing myself and suggesting things to really show that I'm here to stay and I really want to get to know you, and ask a lot of questions. So you really need to be prepared to ask a ton of questions. And that is how you little by little start making that rapport.
So you, even as a Finn, had trouble making friends in Finland?
I do feel that before I had a child, that was harder for me in my 20s. As someone who was just new in their career and just on a different city, it was a bit challenging. But I have to say, kids are such great icebreakers. I've met a ton of wonderful friends I have now through my child. That's just amazing. And one of the perks that I'd never thought like before.
So the number one rule for anyone who's listening is get a child.
Oh my God. Get a pet, get a dog.
Get a dog.
That's another one.
That's a little bit more doable. Yeah, get a dog. Get something that can be a conversation starter.
No, but and also kind of make the most out of your school or work settings, and make the most out of your hobbies. You really, if you have any passion for any kind of group activity, you should really go for it. Join a volleyball team or any kind of that kind of sports or thing that there is a group of people. That's how you really make friends easily.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I think it's not just when it comes to Finland, but when you look at all the Nordic countries, there's such a huge association culture, they call it. Like if you want to, make friends, it's not that you can do that spontaneously. It's like, no, there's actual things that you can do to make that progress a little bit smoother, which is, joining groups like choir, they say, and all sorts of sports and stuff like that.
Exactly. And one thing that is good to know that many Finnish people like to really organize their life. So when you're suggesting a kind of date or kind of coffee break together, let's say after school or work, make like a 1 week of gap for the suggested date. They might not be so spontaneous. So that's something that really stands out very easily.
Is there, I feel like, and I don't know if this is true for Finland, but I know, for example, in countries like Sweden, the big thing is that people make friends when they're in elementary school. And that's kind of one of the reasons why it's so hard to crack into that already formed circle. Is it the same in Finland?
At least for me and my Finns that I have in my bubble, I don't think it is so that everybody is holding on to their elementary friends. I do think that Finnish people make friendships along as they grow and move on with their lives. So I do think there is potential there for everyone to make a Finnish friend. One more tip. When it comes to kind of suggesting those one-to-one times for you to really bond with that fellow Finn, I would also argue to find some kind of sporting angle, because Finns love to be effective and you have only so little time in a day. So if you're able to do that, building a friendship and doing an activity, let's say running or walking or going kayaking or whatever, then they are more likely to say yes to your suggestion. Also, it's easier to do that conversation with a Finn who is a little bit of scared with your eye contact, and kind of if you suggest a coffee date as a friendly way, it still might be shocking to a fellow Finn. And you should also know that a coffee date can actually mean a proper date in the Finnish culture.
Do you have a name for coffee dates? Like I know Sweden, they call them fikas. Do you have
Yes,
something like that?
it's basically just like mennäänkö kahville? Mennäänkö kahville? It can mean really, do you want to go to grab a coffee? And also to actually have a date in a romantic way, or just that non-romantic way to have a coffee. Same sentence.
So basically, lessen the pressure on the person that you're trying to become friends with and just have like the conversation be a byproduct of whatever else that you're doing, right? So
exactly. And it's like, I've seen this teenager advice that if you are a parent of a teenager, you should talk to them in a car when you're not looking at each other and just like driving, and then the conversation comes easier. That's basically the same rules apply when you are trying to make a friend from a Finn.
Let's talk about the Finnish communication. That was super fascinating when I was in Finland and we talked about the American way versus the Finnish way and how that's different.
Yes. So one of the key differences is definitely that we in Finland, we wait for the other person to stop completely, like a full stop, and then we continue. And in some other cultures, we don't wait for our turn. We just kind of, it's like a tennis match. We go immediately, or even we go on top of our others' voices. So that is something you should know. And then the other thing is definitely that you can have silent pauses together. You can have even long pauses together. And it doesn't mean that the Finn is feeling awkward at all. Of course they can, but you probably wouldn't know from their facial expressions when they're feeling awkward, or just being neutral or happy, even super relaxed in your company. And then the third thing is that you should always bring value, or in Finnish way of communication, we always try to bring a new thought into the matter. We assume much from our conversation partner. So that also may be one reason why the communication is so short, because we assume that you know a lot. We are not taking something and explaining it from mile-long distance and then coming back to the matter. We kind of just say the matter and stop.
Is it weird when you're talking to a foreigner that's just keeps going on and on and on? And, there is, for us, it's silence is so uncomfortable. And so like, if it's quiet, You just keep talking just so it's not quiet. So if you're hanging out with a foreigner, do you just find that kind of annoying?
I don't find it annoying, but I do feel that I'm feeling very unpolite as I understand at some point that, okay, maybe this person is from a culture that I need to talk on top of their voice. And that makes me really uncomfortable because I'm always second guessing that tiny second that are they going to stop or are they going to raise their voice? And then I'm like, I don't know. Did I make them awkward as well? So that is a weird feeling for me.
So unless they stop talking, you're like, should I say something? Should I just, what should I do?
Exactly. And it's also in some other cultures, you're able to do that noise, like, go on, like when the other person is talking, but I'm not able to do that at all. Maybe that's a personal thing. I can nod as you are explaining things, but it's really hard for me to make any sound when you're talking.
So for anyone that's sitting at home and they're like, I know nothing about how Finns live, can you kind of give us the rundown, and how does your day look like? How does this Finnish person's day look like? I know you don't represent the whole of Finland, but it would be actually very interesting for me to hear this as well.
Exactly. I am just like deer in a headlights trying to describe everybody's day here in Finland, but let's talk about some main things. We live close by to the nature, but there is one thing that pretty much every Finn loves, and that is the cabin. So the cabin, which is a lakeside small cottage, or it could be even a year-long like villa you can stay in any weather, even when it's minus 30 Celsius. That is kind of the place that everybody wants to have and to recharge. And then when it comes to those normal days, though, usually for office people, it's from Monday to Friday. And then, of course, there are work that needs to be done in shifts, and then the rhythm varies. But what is really cool about Finland is that the work-life balance is very, it's amazing. I worked in several other European countries, and in Finland, it's one of the huge perks that we have here. So basically, when your day ends, then you don't think about your work. You come home. You typically have a very early dinner. We Finns sometimes have dinner at 5 o'clock. And then we do our hobbies. We are outdoors. We do sports. We hang out with our families, our friends, or chill. So that is one of the cool things. And you don't get any points for staying late in Finland. That means that you are not managing your time well. Your manager will be like taking that into discussion and asking if you are okay. And most Finns who are working, enjoy at least 5 weeks of annual vacation, which is paid.
Look at that, Americans. Americans get 2 weeks. So what time would you finish like your job usually?
Yes, so around 4 to 5. And I have to say that sick leave is always also not taken out of your vacation time. So that's separate and also paid in most of the cases.
So that's great, because that kind of sheds a whole new light on the idea of Finns being the happiest. I'm always so, I would say I don't believe the statistics. I'm like, Finns are the happiest. They're not smiling. They don't look super happy. Like, really? Why don't you give it to Brazil? But I think the idea is that when you look at the style of life, right? As you said, it's not a race to get more. It's not a status race, which is how it is more in North America and in a lot of countries, right? It's like, are you done with your job? But you should stay overtime, and you should do more work, and you should become the CEO, and then you should climb the ladder. And then I don't know how it works, as you can tell. Like I don't climb the ladder, but I can feel it as well.
We're on the ladder. Just kidding.
We're hanging off of the ladder. Even my microphone did a flip. For me, a lot of times when I'm in North America, like in Canada, I definitely feel this pressure to just work. Like when you talk to people, you say, how are you? Oh, I'm so busy, I'm so tired. And it's almost like an honor badge that you carry. I'm so tired, I'm so busy, I'm progressing, it's all about work. And I think that's something that they've done a lot of studies. And you know work, at the end of the day, that's not a thing that's going to make you happy, right? It's those other things that you have in your life, like your family and your friends, and doing things in the nature.
Exactly. And I think I like to think that many of my fellow Finns would agree that what makes you happy is to do two things. Do the things that are meaningful for you. Hopefully your job could be meaningful and thus add value into your happiness, but just doing things that are meaningful for you and to help others. So those two things really make you happy.
Exactly. And it's been statistically proven, so it's very interesting. Okay, now, without further ado, I want to get into the dating, of course.
Yes.
Part of the reason that I run this podcast is to talk about dating, but it's not the whole reason.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I cannot release a podcast and not talk about the dating side of it.
Let's do it.
So I don't know how much you feel comfortable sharing, of course, but overall, how has your experience been in dating, Finnish men with dating in Finland?
It's been good. Sorry, I just had to. I just had to give you that nice and short Finnish way of answering. No, it's been great. I really have to say that Finnish men, in my experience, and of course, I'm trying to also gather my friends' thoughts on this matter. But they are reliable. They are very respectful. They are honest spouses and boyfriends. And I am married to one, so I should know.
Are you married to one?
I am married, and this is no secret, I am also divorced. And now remarried. I married. I remarried 3 years ago.
Oh, I didn't know this.
And my husband and I, we've been together 7 years.
I'm so confused. So you divorced 7 years ago?
Earlier than that, but
and
with
then,
yes.
And then you remarried a different man or the same man?
Yes, I found my soulmate, who I am with now, and then I married him. So
congratulations.
This is my second marriage, and I also want to say that out loud, because in Finland it's not a stigma to be divorced and to get married again. And there are a lot of discussions about in your comments, for example, about divorce and how it affects in society. But in Finland, it is normalized, and it's all about people's well-being and being able to come out of a non-working relationship is one of those rights that we have here in Finland.
Yeah, I think it's so great that, I talk to so many different cultures, and there's often such a pressure to please the parents, to please society. You don't have your own money as a woman, right? And so you're forced to do all these things that you wouldn't do. You're marrying someone that potentially abuses you, or you're just someone that you're incompatible with. So I think that's, by the way, congratulations. I didn't know that you were married when we met. You mentioned you're a single mom, and I thought, okay, so she's single.
No, I really was married then. Oh my gosh. I really hope I didn't say that. I'm blushing now, and sure God, I'm watching through every piece of video. I didn't say that. Please say that you are.
What's your husband's name? What's his name?
Larry.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I didn't say that.
I think what you meant was when you were a single mom. So that's something different.
No, I think because I didn't have, so when I divorced, I didn't have any kids. Am I making it even? You're like, who did I meet in October? Is this the same person? What did I have in the bar that previous night? Okay, so full recap. So I've had 2 long relationships in my life, and I married, and also shorter ones, but I married that first husband of mine, and we didn't turn out to be a good match. So we divorced and we didn't have any kids. Then I did find my soulmate, which I'm really amazed, and I never thought that would happen. And we are happily together. We have been together for 7 years, and we have a 5-year-old daughter, and we married 3 years ago.
Wow. Okay, that's really my congratulations. I think nowadays, especially, it's so hard to find someone that you're compatible with. And to say that you found a soulmate is just incredible. So I had all these questions for you about the downsides of Finnish man, but I think in light of what you just said to me, I'm gonna let go because I don't think you have much to say in that regard.
I did have. Let me just find my notes. Of course I have.
I was kind of subtly trying to bring you into the negatives. It's like, well, if she has something to share, I'd love to hear it.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, one of the videos that went viral for me was just Finnish women saying that, if they could choose between dating a foreigner and dating a Finnish man, a lot of them would choose a foreigner simply because Finnish men are not great conversationalists and they're not very romantic.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about that?
I would agree that I do buy my own flowers, which is a joke in my relationship. Finnish men are not the world's biggest nor best gift givers. That is for sure. They do not win that title. But they are really loving spouses and great in many other ways. But gift giving is not their forte. Let me just say this. It is true that some displays of emotions, I have also dated non-Finnish men. They are more grand when it's a non-Finnish man in question. But I have received lots of romantic gestures also from Finnish men.
Such as?
Such as doing a tape that is full of songs that do this message. Like
a
love
tape?
message, like a mixed song, or it's like a puzzle, and I have to find those correct pieces of songs, and they make a message for me. That was really cute. That, for example, my husband did.
It's very thoughtful.
It is, and it's very kind of. I think when I think about dating or my experiences in dating, I do feel that it's all about love and seeing that other person. That's what I am attracted to, or that's the first thing that I look for, is that real connection. And if they are able to see me as me, and I'm not, and I also think that many Finns would agree on this, that we don't like to play games, and it's just very real.
So when you start dating someone in North America, there is this, I would say, terrible notion of dating around until you find the one, whatever the one is. And until you have the talk, and then you say, we are in a committed relationship, you can date multiple people at once. Does that happen in Finland?
Yes. So I don't now feel like a dinosaur because I don't know what's been going on since 7 years, but that has not happened to me in a way that I feel that I was ever played, or the person that I was interested was seeing other people when I felt that we were in a relationship. So okay. I would say that is not such a big thing in Finland based on my experiences. One thing that really strikes awe to me in the Northern American thing is that you guys give numbers to people. Like, she's a 10 or she's an 8. This is really very different, as I said politely, to me. I don't recognize this system in Finland. Do you want to explain me that?
Honestly, I hate this. And personally, just I don't relate to a lot of the North American trends. And nowadays, there's this trend on TikTok. She's a 10, but she has hair under her arm on her armpits, or something along those
Okay.
lines. Is she still a 10? And I cringe. I'm also a bit of a dinosaur in general. But I don't relate well to these trends of like she's a 10, she's an 8. I think that's been a thing for forever.
Mhm.
But now it's also on Instagram and on
Okay.
socials.
So it's even becoming amplified by social media.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's like this idea of putting people as it's like a bit of a commodity. Like people are commodity. You can
Mm.
rate them, you can rank them, and um, yeah, it just doesn't feel very real and authentic to me.
Mm.
So in Finland, you don't have this.
No, I've never heard about it or experienced it, at least through my experiences.
Interesting. And as a Finnish woman,
Mhm.
or just as a woman who's born in Finland, what is important for you in terms of, the first stages of dating? So a lot of cultures, women will say, the man has to pay for me, or um, I'm hoping that he's going to call me
Mhm.
every so often, or text me, or check in with me. How about you?
It is really about getting to know me as a person. One of the favorite things that I did with my husband was that we very early on exchanged these lists that we shared the most annoying and disgusting things of ourselves, because we knew that we were so madly in love, and we knew that of course this rush will die, and we really wanted to make it into something that is going to last a lifetime. So we just decided that we are going to share the ugliest, nastiest things now, so they don't come and hit us in the face when we have passed to this rushing feeling. And that was one of the greatest exercises of love I have ever done, because for example, I'm a messy person. I leave things behind. I pile my clothes everywhere. It's really annoying. And I can put up a facade of some months, but then it's going to come alive that that's me. And it was so refreshing that he knew that early on, and he's actually the same. So yeah, that has never, for example, been a problem. And one thing I have to say for Finnish men, based on my experiences, is that they are so equal when it comes to doing chores around the house. I just appreciate my husband so much. He's cleaning the kitchen, he's making dinner, he's cleaning, he's ironing, he's doing everything, and he's really very manly man, and he's still doing everything like this with me. So we're splitting them, and that's just amazing, and I really appreciate that.
I can so relate to you being messy, because I'm also messy and I always forget things. This is kind of my personality, and I always think, oh God, yeah. I think by the way, I think it's so great that you did that when you started dating, because for me, there's nothing worse than a perfect date when you're on your best behavior and you're in a restaurant. First of all, I hate restaurant dates. I should move to the Nordics. I
You
really,
should we don't do restaurant dates, we
right?
do activity dates.
Exactly. And I just think, this whole idea, like in the US and in Canada, it's quite common, maybe not so much nowadays, but to go to this, incredible restaurant. What happens when you do that? You're on your best behavior, you're dressed the best, you're performing. It's not real. This is not a real person. And for me, what makes someone authentically, like genuinely attractive, is seeing all those kind of quirky sides to them. And you can only see that when you're doing something that brings you together. And that's not sitting in front of each other and asking each other questions. So I've kind of always rebelled against that. And what you said about seeing each other, and not just buying an expensive piece of jewelry, but actually buying something that resonates with who you are as a person. I think that's something that's so much more important, because it takes effort instead of just, oh, I'm just going to pay money and get that over with. So I think it's so cool that you did that you wrote down some of the worst qualities, because I also think it's funny. Like, it's funny. Like, I'm a messy person, right? They're not terrible deal breakers, but it's like you all of a sudden you see this as a real person instead of just like, oh, I'm flawless, I don't have any issues. We all have sides to us that are negative or that could be deal breakers. So that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
And so for you, yeah, it's important, as you said, in a relationship, that it's someone that sees who you are, that it's someone that is that appreciates you as a person, like all the positive and the negative things that come with it. And that the man is manly, but the manliness doesn't stop him from doing the chores and doing the things. So who cooks in your relationship? Is it both
We
of you?
both. We both.
And who cleans?
Both.
And who takes out the garbage? I know that's a process in Finland.
Both as well. I'm really trying to now think about what would I do and he wouldn't.
What about taking care of your daughter?
Both, definitely. He's out now with her. That's what we're doing. He chops the wood for the sauna and fireplace. I don't.
That's what I was just going to say. I said, what if something breaks down or something that actually requires like hard labor? I would assume that he would do that.
Yes, he would do that.
Okay, that's quite a manly job. I mean, chopping wood.
Yes, yes, that's that's not my forte.
Such a Nordic thing. How did you guys meet?
At work.
Okay. Was he your boss or were you just working together?
No, that's actually that's no, definitely not a boss, and that's actually a big no in Finland. Like, there's like a limit to that. But we were colleagues, and that's how we discovered each other.
Did you have like a very kind of set stages of dating? So first you went on the first date, then you went on the second date, or how did it go?
No, I do feel that the dating process is very casual in Finland, and it is very, at least with all of my relationships, it's been really organically going into the different and next steps. And I feel that many of my girlfriends would think that as well. There is not some rules that you have to obey in Finland in that way. Is there ones in Canada or in America?
Generally speaking, yeah, you do have the first date, second date. The rule used to be don't have sex with him too soon, which
Why
I think
is that?
Well, I think there's some sense in just the fact that you're not emotionally attached, or you're not emotionally, connected at, in the first, second date. So what drives a man's attraction is just him wanting to have sex with you, but you kind of need to develop a little bit of that emotional closeness before you jump into the sack. But at the same time, I think the rule was that just don't give it up too soon, otherwise he's not going to want commitment. So it was a little bit kind of, yeah, maybe old fashioned if you look at it that way. Like, don't do it because you should be playing hard to get. So that I don't agree with, but I do agree with the understanding of, well, maybe build a little bit more than just the physical attraction and then kind of go for it. How is it in Finland?
Yeah, that's a great question, because from Finnish point of view, it is really interesting, this kind of how it sometimes might even feel that the American way might be that you are kind of blackmailing with sex.
Game playing.
Yeah, like making it into a game, and for, at least for me, when it comes to finding your true love or love in general, it just feels that it's again, it doesn't go into that that I'm here and I see you and I want to get to know you. It is like, I'm on this role and we are kind of having this game between each other, and it doesn't feel very authentic to me. And in the Finnish dating life, it is okay for the couple to have sex whenever they feel like it, and it's also very on equal terms. Either the woman or the man, either one of them in any style of relationship can suggest it, and it is not felt. I don't feel that there is any rules to it that you should wait for the third date, for example.
Yeah, I think it's a great way that you put it. It is like blackmailing. It's like when you're in a relationship and the guy doesn't do the dishes and you say, "I'm not going to have sex with you until you do the dishes." And it's like, "Oh, okay. So is that something you don't want as a woman? Is it just him that wants sex?"
Yeah, it really is a different mindset, because don't you the ladies, don't you want to have sex? You're making also yourself wait for, let's say, like if there was a person who would be doing this kind of, I will make him wait for 3 months, then you are also waiting for 3 months. And what if the sex is really bad? Then wouldn't you want to have a relationship with someone who you connect also sexually? Then you wasted 3 months of your life for something that is not going to be compatible through the all aspects of your relationship.
Yeah. I
so
think
that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think there's a fear that if you have sex too soon, the man is just going to get up and leave. And I think the more it happens to you as a woman, the more you close yourself off from that, because you think, oh, this equals that. It might not necessarily. Maybe the men were not that interested in you, and the whole reason that they dated you was to get sex, and then they left once they did. And but now in your mind, the association is sex equals I'm alone again. Right? So, but you're right. Like, you're right. It's such a weird dynamic of like the woman just has sex to secure a man. Does she not actually enjoy it?
Yeah, there are. It's puzzling me. It's puzzling me a lot in terms of how I think. Of course, I cannot speak for all the ladies in Finland, but as we come on such equal terms into the relationship, when we enter it in such equal terms, it does make me wonder a lot about the dynamics of the relationship that is being put to life in the first place, and how it can really function. How do we go from that role playing into actually just being ourselves, and for the other person to really love us with all our faults, and just seeing the really raw naked me here? That's
Yeah, and I love that in Finland, like I feel like you don't have the role playing. You're right. Like there's a lot less of it. I mean, from the first date, you both come in and you're not doing some crazy expensive restaurant where the man pays for you. And so the man pays for you and you have to play your part. And there's an expectation of you to be a certain way. And then there's an expectation of you to act a certain kind of role within the relationship. So I think like a lot of cultures, they're so limited by what they can and cannot do. For example, like in Latin America, as a woman, you're told don't have sex until you're married, make the man work for it. It's all about make the man work for it. And so it puts the man in a kind of role where he's the only one, first of all, that wants sex, but also to keep him, you have to act a certain way. When it comes to your friends or when it comes to yourself, is it common for the woman to approach a man that she doesn't know, let's say in a bar or in a club, and just to kind of hit on him and to initiate the whole let's go to my place and let's have some drinks at my place? Or is that still a little bit taboo?
No, I don't think that's taboo at all. In Finland, either one of the partners can suggest this. And I do think that it's very normal for ladies to do this too. And it can go as you described.
And have you known of that to then become a relationship? So they go home to hers, they have sex, it's a one night stand, but then they end up in a relationship afterwards.
Yes, I know several of those couples, and I also know a lot of situations that were just a really good meeting of two persons, and then they went on their separate ways. So it is both of those things, I guess, in Finland.
So if you're a foreigner coming to Finland, then just kind of go for it. If you like someone, that's not gonna, there's no stigma, right? Is there,
Yes.
in North America, we have this saying of like, the walk of shame. Do you know what the walk of shame is?
I do know that. And I'm really now thinking that we don't have a word for it. Isn't it that cool?
That is cool, yeah.
Uh,
I had a friend, we were playing a game, and I remember he's Turkish, and that phrase came up and was like, have you ever had a walk of shame? And he went really literal and he said, but why is it shameful? What is shameful about it? And then we had to explain, and I was like, actually, why is it shameful? Because
yeah.
you just had sex. Is that
We
shameful?
we don't have a word for it.
How did you learn about sex? Was it taught to you in
Yes.
school?
I love that we are talking about this because I'm very comfortable in talking about this because I'm really proud of it. My mom told me about it, and we've had very good discussions from, I can remember from age 10 onwards about sex and about being a woman. And I'm so appreciative to my mom for all of those things. She has really been a rock in my life.
And was she very open with you when talking about this?
Yes, she has been the best.
Okay.
I've never felt shamed of my sexuality, or if I've ever had a question about anything, I was also always being taken care of in that way, that she was there for me and I could ask whatever.
How old were you when you found out?
About sex, I don't remember, but I do remember like really good discussions when I was at the age of 10 to 12 at the car when we were driving from my ballet lessons, and she would talk about things and we would share and I would ask. Yeah.
That's so great. And have you, I mean, your daughter is 5 years old, so you probably
Yes.
haven't gotten into it yet, or are you teaching her a little bit already?
We haven't talked about sex in the correct terms, but she does know that the babies come from vagina and it's in the belly. We haven't disclosed it in much detail before what happens, but she does know that.
Does she know the proper name for it, or just you say like, oh,
no,
the girl's Willy?
Yeah,
Willy? Well, I don't know the name for it, but like a cute
exactly.
kid version of it.
Cute kid version for that, but that's, of course, that's not sex, but she is interested in seeing all pregnant women, and she's interested how she came to the world. So of course I'm sharing it and not hiding it, but I haven't specifically talked about sex, but I will when she is old enough in that way. And my viewpoint is to talk it early. It's not anything that she ever needs to feel uncomfortable with.
Yeah, I have a friend, and when her period started, granted, she knew what it was, but it wasn't because her mom explained anything. So when her period started, she said, Mom, what do I do? And the mom said, just like, you got your period. And she just walked out.
Aww.
And the mom would just bark at her, say like, shave your armpits or those kind of things. And now she's struggling. She's seeing a therapist, and she just says like, I always wish I was a boy. It just would have been easier because she just never had her mom there to explain things to her. And she didn't know. Like a lot of girls, when they have their first period, they don't know what it is. Are they dying? They have nobody to ask. And the parents are such a huge influence on the kid, and if they say this is dirty, this is bad, or you should wait until marriage, but why to have sex, and it's just not, but you shouldn't. And there's a taboo associated with sex. And we just did a Middle Eastern video, and we talked about this, and they said that even when it comes time to have sex, there's such a taboo ingrained in their body of like, this is wrong, and you're always torn 3 different ways of what my parents want, what the God wants, what do I want, is this taboo, is this normal? So I think it's so great about the Finnish culture, and like about your childhood, is that your mom didn't say, okay, well, just I don't want to talk about this, or like she actually talked to you about it. So you grew up and you're like, this is normal, this is healthy, there's nothing bad about it. It's not like you're not, you're gonna go off and have a lot of sex if you know what sex is. Like, that's such a misunderstanding, right?
Exactly. I feel that the Finnish approach is very pragmatic and explaining the things as they are. We do have also a lot of great children books in the library for different aged groups to explain these things, so we can easily use even literature to advise us as parents, and of course lots of also good websites to check how to give some ideas how to go about it.
Okay, so we're going to wrap up really shortly, but I do want to ask you the last question. And this is, of course, about nudity, because it was a huge topic in the video and the video went viral. Everyone had an opinion about Finnish nudity, whether it was right or wrong, or, you know, people have their own opinions. But it was such an interesting topic that I think I published so many videos with our conversation about nudity. So let's talk a little bit more about it. So there is a comfort around being nude in Finland, right?
There definitely is. There's nothing sexual about being in the sauna and about being naked there.
Mm-hmm. And when you were growing up, did you see nudity around you on TV? Was it kind of like the idea that being nude is normal, there's nothing to be ashamed of? Was that part of your childhood?
I don't think that kind of nudity is displayed in Finnish TV any more than in any Western country. Of course, there can be sometimes people in the sauna advertisements, for example, and then you see them using towels, or you see men having just towels so that their upper part of the body is naked. But nothing in that sense. But I do feel that when we grow up in Finland, we see a lot of nudity in, for example, in swimming halls. So in these public swimming places among your same sex, you are going to see a lot of different bodies that normalize that whole body kind of image thing. And I think that's really healthy.
And they say that like nudity in the sauna is not sexual. That's the one takeaway that I got from my Finnish video. Like,
yes,
don't get too excited. And then, of course, the viewers were like, "Oh my God, I'm buying a ticket to Finland," and I'm like, "No, it's not sexual."
It's really not. And I have to share. I was in my 20s. I was in Switzerland, and I was in a spa where you were naked among everybody, a mixed naked experience in a Swiss spa. And I, as a Finn, can you believe, I felt really uncomfortable.
Why is that?
Because it was not my style of nudity. I don't go to swim naked with all strangers who are naked besides me. I just go in the sauna naked with my family. I do go naked among my own. Like it's I know that it's like a safe space because I know it's among my own sex and I feel comfortable. That was hard for me to be walking there naked.
Yeah. I think they just recently, I don't know if you know about this, but in Berlin they approved the bill that passed that women can now swim topless in the swimming pool, and people are like, "Yeah, go Berlin," and I'm like, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable doing that, like swimming naked in, or I think swimming topless it was, in a swimming pool with random men and people in it. So I'm not sure.
I do feel from a Finnish point of view that in Germany there is a bigger nudity scene compared to Finland. For example, it's very rare to see a topless lady on a beach in Finland. Very rare. And they wouldn't be like, "No, that's disgusting," but it would be kind of like, "That's very unusual." So it is a really peculiar thing that you feel so natural in the women's changing room, in the women's sauna, but then to go out of the box and to be topless at a public swimming beach in Finland, that would feel strange.
I think on this note, we've basically kind of dived into all the questions that I had, and I can keep talking to you for I think a couple of more hours about this because I'm genuinely so curious, and you have such an interesting way of explaining things, and really like it resonates with me, and I think it would resonate with a lot of people that are listening to this. But I know you have to get to your daughter and your husband that's sitting there with your daughter. um, and I wanted to thank you for your time, and to, for anyone that's listening to this or that's watching this, I'm going to link to Varpu's Instagram page and her YouTube channel in case you are interested in the Finnish culture and Finnish language and just want to see more of her smiley face. Go and check her out. She really is as smiley in person. It's not a facade, guys. She is like you're like a really just, you radiate energy, like happy energy, which is so great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for over an hour at this point. We went as far as we could into it. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. And I hope you return to Finland, and I'll be happy to show you around much, much more.
Yeah, same. I'll actually be in Sweden in 3 weeks. So I'll give you a wave across the water.
You're on the wrong side, but okay.
Okay, well, it was lovely to have you and chat to you offline.
Yes, it really was.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye. Thank you.